something you actually pointed out earlier on is managed services, which of course has become a game changer as far as enterprises, industry is concerned. They obviously allow businesses to focus on their core competencies while outsourcing lots of stuff, in terms of, whatever the critical IT functions have actually been outsourced, which becomes pretty feasible for them also at the end of the day. How do managed services contribute to the cost efficiency though for enterprises, and what are the trends that you actually see, and how has managed services, and the second part of that question is how has managed services sort of been accepted in Sri Lanka?
So maybe I'll answer the last part first.
Right.
I think managed services is starting to get accepted more than it was.
Okay.
Especially post-pandemic and post-economic crisis,
right.
where we lost a lot of great skilled people in this country as well, right? So I think with that, especially if enterprises need to maintain skilled people, right? And we've lost a lot of people, right? I think what they tend to do now is, give that overhead away to a company or partner who can manage that for them.
Right.
Right. And that gives them the flexibility because they start focusing on what they do best.
Their core business.
Their core business.
Right.
And at the same time, what happens is then you are able to manage your cost as well, right? Because it's more predictable.
Yeah.
It's an outsourced contract, the overhead is with you now, you manage it for me, these are the SLAs in place, and you have a good contract with that partner. And you know what your cost is going to be, right? And you expect them to provide you some trusted advice.
Yeah, it's not variable at the end of the day.
Exactly.
It's a fixed cost for you.
Yeah. And adoption is growing, right? And it's not only in Sri Lanka actually. We run quite a considerable managed services business, and we are seeing that adoption in the region as well, in the markets that we operate, it's growing in most of these markets. Not just for things like security, but entire IT.
Right. Okay.
Right. Entire IT, from the infrastructure management to the software to enterprise applications to even taking over your support function for you.
But how hesitant are enterprises to actually move into the managed services? Because obviously there is also this cloud of data security,
privacy,
analysis, control. Should I give this over to a third party? Are they still hesitant over this?
Some are.
Right.
Some, especially maybe the financial institutions, banks.
Yes.
Right. And especially if it's done remotely, there is some hesitancy. But in those cases, what they rely is it a company that's reputed for it?
Right.
Is it been there, done that in the past, right? And do they have the level of experience? And the contracts, is it backed by a good contract?
Right.
Right. And then obviously the references that they get from that partner. But then again, I think there have been companies who have been reluctant in the past who are now starting to adopt it, because they see a cost saving on one hand.
That's right.
Cost saving. There's more, better skilled resources who are always at it. Right? That's their main job now. Always at it. They are updating themselves and being able to deal with those situations.
How much of a shot in the arm did COVID actually give to the technological world?
I think there was more hype than expected.
Okay.
I think it did. So I think we used to call it the new normal at the time, right?
That's right.
Right. People now, it's the new normal is the answer.
Nobody says that anymore.
There won't be any office spaces anymore. Everything is going to happen online and so on. I think there are some companies that are still in a kind of hybrid, but most, even our companies now, people want to come in.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There are some companies who are mandated that people come in, right? Because one thing is that social aspect really makes a big impact.
That's right.
Right, rather than online, and not just working with customers, going and meeting your partners, meeting your customers, the employees, working with the interns, getting mentored. All of that is very different.
Right.
That human touch, it can't be replaced.
Right.
So I think we realized that the hard way, but I think that's reality.
Do you feel the current generation is going to adopt the online culture much more than our generation is? Because they are growing up with it. They are growing up with AI. They are growing up with technological developments. The current generation...
They already have, and I think some of the newer generation are, they come asking if, how many days a week can they work from home.
Now that's become a requirement, right, in interviews.
and we also need to be flexible,
Yeah.
right? Because we have multiple generations in some of our companies.
That's right.
So we tend to be quite flexible when it comes to those arrangements. But then we see, especially the newer generations, asking for more flexibility,
right,
on that, which is fine in a way, as long as we manage to get the job delivered. But then I think for us, coming from one generation or maybe two generations now, I think we are very much used to that social aspect.
That's true.
Right?
That's
so
true.
I think that
mean,
makes a difference for us.
Face-to-face meetings and all that stuff.
That's right.
It's a different. I mean, there's a different element of closing a deal over a handshake than basically pressing a like button.
That's right. Yeah.
It's completely different at the end of the day. But yeah. But what lessons from the pandemic, Shevan, should enterprises actually carry forward in the digital transformation of their journey in the digital transformation?
Yeah, so I think main thing is, and I think this is where a lot of companies have adapted also, is that technology is a big part of any enterprise now.
Right.
You need to be connected. You need to, a lot of things happen online, right? A lot of collaboration. Your data has to be online,
yeah,
right? Even your documents, simple things like documents, everything. Make sure it's accessible, it's connected. You can communicate, because you never know.
Right.
Next week we might be in some situation again. There might be a curfew or something, right?
Right.
So this is where a lot of companies adapted to make sure that you can work from home if needed to, right? As long as you have internet connection somewhere, you can still be productive,
right?
Right. So I think that part has changed to a great level post pandemic. But I think main thing is think that technology is going to be a big part of your enterprise for the future. But then along with that, how do you secure enterprise?
Right.
Right. How do you make it more agile? How are you able to scale it? Right. And secure.
So, Shevan, obviously being in the enterprise industry and seeing so many different sort of technological advances coming, and I'm sure you might be seeing certain things on the horizon. Is there something that you're really excited about, that you're waiting for it to sort of blow up and take over the world?
Well, everyone is talking about AI.
Yeah,
these days,
I mean,
right?
AI is there.
AI is there now.
Moving on.
People talk about losing their jobs. These jobs are going to get replaced by AI and robots and so on, right? I think a lot of it is. I think, as you say, AI is there now, right? I think there's a lot of AI getting built in. I think we just need to accept the fact that a lot of the technology that we are working with day to day as well.
Right.
Even writing emails, for example, can be done through some of the technologies that are out there now. I think it's going to be interesting. The next probably 5 years is going to be very interesting, because some of the the day-to-day stuff I think will get automated to a great extent, right? But I think there will still be a lot of aspects of enterprises and jobs which will rely on human interaction. Right? That part is going to take some time, I think,
right,
to take that away.
Right.
But then I think I experience sometimes, right? I think from some of the tools that we use now. Right, even when you do some research or anything, the speed at which you can get those answers, and comprehensive, it's so comprehensive as well. And I think we are starting to experience it in a smaller way. But I think countries like Sri Lanka are just getting into it now, right? And you see a lot of companies now starting, because I think the foundation for AI is data.
Yeah.
Right, and as when you start adopting digital, you start to collect a lot of data, and when your systems are integrated to each other, you start correlating that data. It becomes very powerful. Right, and this is where you start collecting that data. You're able to have quality data that is cleansed and relatable to each other. That is where AI will pick it up from there. Right, and do wonders from there when you have the models in place.
There's something else. I mean, obviously, ChatGPT has taken over the world right now, and of course, like you said, AI is on the verge of taking over the world. But we come from a generation that we buried ourselves in books to study. Right. This generation basically speaks to ChatGPT and sort of gets the answers and all that stuff. Are we going to see a disparity in terms of education levels, that you don't need to study because you can just basically find out in the future? It's a tough one, because this is something that's been obviously argued around the world.
It's definitely easier, I think. I mean, a lot of students probably, we've heard of so many students using ChatGPT now to do their assignments too and all that. And there are tools that will check if it has been
plagiarized.
It has been, exactly.
Yeah.
But I think it's, again, it's a bit difficult to answer now, but it'll be different.
Right.
Right. I think it just will be different. I think because I think in one way, I think the knowledge that we acquired from books and going to school was probably limited.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're using tools like ChatGPT, I mean, if you just put a very basic prompt there, right, it will search through multiple sources.
That's right.
And give you a very comprehensive answer.
Right.
Out of which, if we were to study it in a book or through school, we probably would have got only part of that, absorbed only part of that. Right, but now you get a comprehensive answer which gives you various perspectives of that as well, right? Which I think it's a much more powerful learning mechanism. But then obviously you can use it in all different ways as well, right?
Yeah. Enterprise-driven technology is fabulous. It's fascinating. So it is taking over, and it's nice to see that lots of corporates in Sri Lanka have also moved towards that. Shevan, I mean, we spoke about, you worked in various sectors, led initiatives, have impacted enterprises globally, and also, of course, in Sri Lanka. On a personal note, what has been the most rewarding moment in your career so far?
Rewarding moment in my career, I think, is being part of this the whole Fuel Pass project that MillenniumIT did. I think that was one of the most impactful technology projects that Sri Lanka has ever seen.
I don't think not many people actually know about that, Shevan. I have no idea. I mean, obviously, I think we had this conversation when this was coming up.
Yeah.
That yes, there were glitches in the beginning,
Yeah.
as expected in any technological software that comes out.
Yeah.
But talk us through that, because that's a huge initiative that saved Sri Lanka.
Sure, yeah. So I think, I think we are very proud of that as well. So it's a project that we did in collaboration with Dialogue,
Right.
Asiata. And it was at a time where, obviously the country was in crisis. People in queues for 6-7 days. We had taxi drivers, lorry drivers going on the queue, getting, a few liters of petrol or diesel, hitting the road again for 2 days to put food on the table for their families.
That's right.
And I think 16 people died in the queues.
That's right,
during the
yeah.
process. And I think a technology solution, and it is something that we actually had worked with Dialogue several years back for the internal purpose at Dialogue. And it was about extending that concept, right? And the Minister Kanchan also was very accommodative of the technology at the time. But I think, yes, there was criticism when it was rolled out, especially during the registration process, because I think we didn't expect it to be adopted so fast.
Yeah.
Right? Suddenly we saw 600,000 people hitting the system.
It crashed.
It crashed. But the thing is, I think the criticism, honestly, came from the industry as well. Some of the industry saying, haven't you tested the system? Hasn't it followed the best architectures, software architectures, and so on? And my answer to that at the time was that it wasn't a time to be writing the most elegant piece of software that the world has seen.
True.
Right? It was about getting software that will do the job and help us get out of the crisis.
Right.
And then we spent only 10 days on that. Within 10 days, the system was live. Tested it for 3-4 days, and then I think the minister and the government got involved to help roll out roll it out countrywide. Within 3 days, the queues vanished. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, the economic activity had come to a halt in the country. I mean, schools were not functioning. There were no ambulances to take patients to hospitals.
That's right.
All of that changed within 3 days, right? And that's the impact that created. Again, it was probably not the most elegant software that was, following the best architectures or the test mechanisms.
It was the need of the moment.
Yeah, it did the job.
Right.
It did the job. I think that particular piece of technology brought down, I think, the fuel bill a month at the time was about $650 million a month. It was brought down to $270 million. Right. And within that year, it was in operation for about a year, it saved about $3 billion for the country, right? Because of being able to have that quota rationing system in place. So indeed, I think that was a very impactful project that was rolled out countrywide. And obviously, I think Dialogue and us, it was a pro bono project.
Right.
So
Finally, Shevan, obviously, Thank you so much for joining us on the show. I mean, it's been some brilliant, of course, picking your brains as to in terms of the enterprise-driven solutions that are available out there. What message would you like to leave for aspiring digital entrepreneurs? And one thing that we see is the talent is booming in this country in terms of everybody wanting to be a digital entrepreneur. And IT leaders in Sri Lanka, the young ones that are coming up, what message would you like to basically leave for them?
Yeah, I think one thing I've seen in my career with entrepreneurs, I mean, there are a lot of people with great ideas,
right?
Coming from even school days, even during their school days, even during university time, but sadly, there are a lot of them who also give up after a particular point, right? It comes down to confidence, comes down to funding, not having proper mentorship, and so on, right? So I think the Sri Lankan ecosystem for these entrepreneurs has really developed, right? If they need help, they just need to reach out, right, and get that help, get that mentorship. There are funding sources available and so on, right? So don't give up, be confident, don't give up, and bring your dream to reality. Right, I think that's the main message I would like to give them.
Lovely, thank you. Shevan, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks,
it's been an absolute pleasure having him. Shevan Goonatilleke, CEO of MillenniumIT ESP, and again, picking brains, picking those insights from an individual who's actually been in the industry for a very, very long time, made his mark in different sectors. That's what we do right here on Meet the Tech Titans. It is a thought leadership podcast series proudly brought to you by Hutch, and a big thank you also to Liquid Spaces, who of course are official venue partner. More great individuals coming up right here on the show. Keep it locked right here in this space, and we'll give you more as far as Meet the Tech Titans are concerned. Thank you so much.